if we have access to capital and other things that make the ecosystem work, such as mentorship, training, and if we have the government provide the enabling environment, entrepreneurship would thrive in Africa, and as entrepreneurs prosper in Africa, they will address most of our development needs and challenges today.
Let's talk about Tony Elumelu. You've probably heard the name. Billionaire, banker, investor, philanthropist. But here's the real question. Is he the most powerful and dangerous businessman in Nigeria? Think about it. He built a financial empire from scratch, turned struggling companies into giants, went head-to-head with Femi Otedola in a battle for control. And now he's making bold moves in oil and energy. Some say he's quietly positioning himself as the biggest force in Nigeria's economy. Others believe he's already there. But how did he do it? Where did he start? And what's his real connection to Nigeria's most powerful political figures? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're diving deep into the story of Tony Elumelu, his rise to billionaire status, his rivalries, his influence in oil, and the moves that could shape Nigeria's future. Let's get into it. Before Tony Elumelu became one of the most influential businessmen in Africa, he was just a regular kid from Delta State, Nigeria. No silver spoon, no billion-dollar inheritance, just raw ambition and an eye for opportunity. Born on March 22nd, 1963, in Jos, Plateau State, Elumelu grew up in a middle-class family with strong values. His father was an entrepreneur, his mother ran a small business. Watching them hustle to provide for their family planted the first seeds of business in his mind. But young Tony wasn't just interested in making money. He wanted to understand how economies worked, how businesses grew, and most importantly, how to turn ideas into empires. That mindset led him to study economics at Ambrose Ali University. He wasn't the top of his class, but he had something even more important: an incredible work ethic and a hunger to learn. He later went on to earn a master's degree in economics from the University of Lagos, a move that would set him up for the corporate world he was about to dominate. But let's be real, degrees don't make billionaires. What really mattered was what came next. His first job, his first big break, and how he turned a struggling bank into a financial powerhouse. That's where the real story begins. I had always admired the banking profession for one. I loved that the guys in the profession were always impeccably dressed. Suspenders were a huge thing back then, and I wanted to look like them, he says. A few years later, after my master's, I saw the application for graduates with a minimum of 2-1 in all states trust bank. This aligned with what I wanted for my life, but my 2-2 grade did not make me qualified. Still, I applied because I identified what I wanted in life, and I was going to work towards it. I put in my application and said, even though I don't meet these requirements, if you give me the chance, I'll prove myself. I got this job and spent every day proving myself and earning my luck in the bank. Tony's first job wasn't glamorous. No big office, no executive title. Just a young man working as a salesman at Union Bank, pushing loans and financial products. But even then, he stood out. He wasn't just trying to do the job. He was trying to understand how the system worked. Who controlled the money? How did the banks grow? What made some succeed while others failed? It didn't take long for him to figure out that the real power wasn't in working for a bank. It was in owning one. In 1997, at just 34 years old, Elumelu and a small group of investors made a bold move. They took over a struggling bank, Crystal Bank, rebranded it as Standard Trust Bank, and turned it into a success story. How? Aggressive expansion, innovative banking solutions, and a clear vision. Within a few years, Standard Trust Bank wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. But Elumelu wasn't done. In 2005, he pulled off one of the biggest banking deals in Nigeria's history, a merger with United Bank for Africa, UBA. This wasn't just about growing a business, it was about creating a financial empire. Under his leadership, UBA expanded beyond Nigeria, setting up operations in over 20 African countries, and even reaching markets in Europe and the US. But banking was just the beginning. His next move? Energy, oil, and a whole new level of power. Banking made Tony Elumelu rich, but oil and energy, that's where real power lies, and he knew it. After stepping down as UBA's CEO in 2010, he didn't slow down. Instead, he launched Hayes Holdings, an investment company with stakes in multiple sectors: finance, healthcare, real estate, hospitality, and most importantly, energy. A calculated entry into the industry that controls economies. Through Hayes Holdings, Elumelu acquired key oil assets, leading to the creation of Hayes Energies Limited. One of his biggest plays, securing oil blocks once operated by major foreign companies. Suddenly, a man who had built his career in banking was now competing in Nigeria's most lucrative sector, oil. And now, the rumors are growing of his desire to build another indigenous refinery in Nigeria.
Refining Nigeria?
For us, we will integrate ultimately. But we wanted to start with oil production first. When you have oil, which is the raw material, then to go into fertilizer, into chemicals, into refinery is not as difficult.
If this happens, Elumelu wouldn't just be an oil player. He'll be a direct competitor to Dangote, whose refinery is already shaking up the industry. Some say it's just speculation, but if history has taught us anything, it's that Elumelu doesn't make empty moves. With every step, he's securing more control over industries that shape Nigeria's economy. And that's exactly why his next moves, his rivalries and political connections are raising even more questions. When two powerful men set their sights on the same price, there's likely to be a clash. That's exactly what happened in 2023, when Femi Otedola, another Nigerian billionaire, suddenly started buying up shares in Transcorp, one of Tony Elumelu's biggest companies. At first, it looked like a routine investment. But then, Otedola kept buying, eventually becoming the largest individual shareholder, almost as if he wanted to take over. Elumelu, of course, didn't just sit back and watch. In a matter of days, he made a counter move, quietly rallying investors and increasing his own stake in Transcorp. The result? Otedola sold off his shares and walked away. Just like that, the power struggle was over. But why did he back out so quickly? Did he realize he was up against a force too big to challenge? Either way, we see how Elumelu reacts to competition, swift and decisive. Which begs the question, is Tony Elumelu a real threat to Aliko Dangote? On one hand, Dangote is Africa's richest man, dominating cement, sugar, and now oil refining, with his massive refinery in Ibeju-Lekki. On the other hand, Elumelu is building an empire across banking, energy, and oil, steadily increasing his grip on Nigeria's economy. Some say their industries can't overlap enough for a direct rivalry. But if Elumelu's rumored refinery dream happens, that changes everything. Because at that point, it won't just be a battle of industries, it will be a battle of influence. And Elumelu isn't someone who plays to lose. In Nigeria, you don't rise to billionaire status without powerful connections. And Elumelu, he plays the political game better than most. Unlike some businessmen who openly align with politicians, Elumelu moves carefully, always in the background, always strategic. Over the years, he's maintained strong relationships with multiple administrations, ensuring that no matter who's in power, his businesses stay protected. Take his rise in the banking sector, for example. The 2005 UBA merger, that happened under President Obasanjo's administration, a time when banking reforms were shaking up the industry. Elumelu positioned himself well and came out on top. Then, during Goodluck Jonathan's tenure, Transcorp Power became a major player in the energy sector. Coincidence? Probably not. But what about now, under Bola Tinubu? Elumelu and Tinubu have been seen together at several high-profile events, sparking speculation about their relationship. Is it just business? Or is Elumelu securing a deeper political foothold? Some people believe he's playing the long game, not just influencing policies that benefit his businesses, but positioning himself as a kingmaker, someone who quietly shapes who gets power next. The real question is, how far is he willing to go? Because if history has shown us anything, it's that in Nigeria, business and politics are two sides of the same coin. And the people who understand that, they don't just survive, they control everything. So, the final question. Does Tony Elumelu own Nigeria? It's a bold question. But when you look at the industries Tony Elumelu controls, it doesn't seem so far-fetched. Think about it. Banking, UBA, one of Africa's largest banks, with a presence in over 20 countries. Energy, Transcorp Power, a key player in Nigeria's electricity supply. Oil, here's oil and gas, quietly acquiring strategic assets. Investments, here's holdings, with stakes in multiple sectors from healthcare to real estate. In short, Elumelu isn't just running businesses. He's controlling industries that shape Nigeria's economy. And what's even more interesting, he does it without holding any official government position. No ministerial role, no political office, yet his influence is everywhere. Government policies that favor private sector growth, they work in his favor. Economic decisions that impact banking, power and oil, his companies are always well positioned. Whether it's through strategic partnerships, lobbying, or simply staying ahead of the curve, Elumelu has mastered the art of influence without direct involvement. So, does he own Nigeria? Not on paper. But in the world of power, ownership isn't always about titles. It's about control. And right now, few people control more of Nigeria's future than Tony Elumelu. With great power comes great controversy. And Tony Elumelu is no exception. To some, he's a visionary, a businessman creating opportunities for Africa, proving that wealth can be built through smart investments rather than political connections alone. But not everyone sees him as a hero. Some say he's just another monopolist in disguise, quietly consolidating power while presenting himself as a champion of economic growth. There's also the issue of government ties. While he maintains a clean public image, critics argue that his success wouldn't be possible without deep political connections. At the end of the day, Tony Elumelu is both admired and scrutinized. Love him or hate him, one thing is clear, he's not slowing down. Where does all this lead? What's the next big move for the man who's already shaping Nigeria's financial and energy future? His dream to go into refining could put him in direct competition with Dangote, and further give a major boost to the development of the region. But how? Well, we can see that the presence of Dangote refinery did a lot to improve Ibeju-Lekki. It made it an investor magnet. Now imagine another such refinery popping up somewhere in the country, especially one backed by someone like Tony Elumelu. There would be a massive boom in real estate in the region. The economy would see a huge upturn due to increased crude oil production, and competition could even mean lower pump prices for consumers. His continuous expansion in power and oil suggests he's building something even bigger. And as politics and business become even more intertwined in Nigeria, the question is, will Elumelu stay behind the scenes, or will he take a more direct role in shaping the country's future? One thing is certain, his influence is undeniable. Whether he's the most powerful billionaire in Nigeria is up for debate though. If his track record is anything to go by, he's not done making moves. So, do you think Tony Elumelu is the most powerful businessman in Nigeria? Or is there someone else pulling the strings behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.